Welcome into Sports Memo's Betting Podcast for July 23rd. We got Andrew McGinnis on. We're breaking down the CFL Every Game on the Board podcast. The lines are just coming out pretty much as we're recording this. And McGinnis, exciting time here of the week, Tuesday. Lines coming out, CFL Every Game on the Board podcast. Welcome in, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, Drew. I always look forward to doing this at the early part of the week, talking about these games, breaking things down, and sort of talking about the previous week as well. So, should be a good podcast here. We got a great set of games. I'm looking forward to talking about these games and a couple of great spots I'm really liking. So we're looking pretty good for this week. Drew, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. We were just talking a bunch off camera. You're up there north of the border in Nova Scotia, Canadian resident here. 13-7 on the year, 65% CFL year to date. Is off of a down week, so if you like jumping on bounce back mode, it's McGinnis is your guy, and we got a coupon code here, CFL50. That's CFL50. At checkout. We'll take an extra $50 off of an already discounted CFL full season. We discounted it to just $199 through the Grey Cup. You can take another $50 off CFL 50 at checkout there at sportsmemo.com. We got Calgary Stampeders, Ottawa Redblacks at the top of the card, 681-682 the rotation number, 7 o'clock Eastern kick here on Thursday, July 25th. Looks like -5 Calgary laying on the road. It is getting bumped up as we're speaking. It looks like it opened 4, seeing 5s up to 5.5 now. So it looks like Calgary is catching the money at least early here, McGinnis. We got 50, 50.5, and 51 as the total. Some opinion in the marketplace here with Calgary at Ottawa. How are you viewing this one?
It's like I always say, Drew. I mean, line movement in the CFL is like no other. We're seeing now a -6.5 number at Pinnacle, whereas over at Heritage Sportsbook, we're seeing a -4.5. So it just shows you the differences we're seeing just across each sportsbook. And it's a really interesting game here because we've got a team in the Calgary Stampeders, which we know how elite they are. I've talked about it so many times, how great and successful they've been over the past several years in this CFL. But the Ottawa Redblacks, so this is a team that's struggling. We looked at them at the start of the season and figured they'd be around the middle of the pack. They'd be competing in this Eastern Division. And now with some injuries, with some QB problems, Dominic Davis looking to be out actually for another week, which was really scary for Ottawa. Coach Campbell said, it's not looking like it. I think he's going to need another week. And Jonathan will be getting the nod again. He's getting all the reps in practice. But I'll tell you one thing, Drew. Jonathan Jennings did not look good whatsoever, and that does worry me. I look back at that spot, and I really took that game last week when it was the Ottawa Redblacks and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I took that as kind of a learning curve. I just wanted to kind of see how Ottawa would come out, and especially still early on in the season. I want everybody out there listening to know that sometimes you don't have to have action on every game. Whether it's a client play for me or not. I'm sometimes sitting back. I'm a student of the game, and I'm learning. And for all of you out there that didn't hear the score of this game, 31-1. That's right. You heard 31-1. So the only point that Ottawa scored was a single. That's a pretty specific CFL score right there. So that just means that Ottawa was able to keep Winnipeg in their end zone, and Winnipeg pretty much kneeled and gave them that 1 point. But Jonathan Jennings was horrible, Drew. He's a guy that I faded quite a bit when he played for BC, and I figured that he would be hungry. I figured he'd be ready to go, at least for someone that hadn't played for weeks, that he assumed that he was actually going to have a starting role this year, and then Davis took that away from him. This guy went in, passed 40%, only 45 yards, 6 of 15, and an interception. He came out there and did exactly what he shouldn't have done. I mean, he tried to force too many things, too many plays. He went long far too many times in the double coverage. He didn't really come out with a simple game plan, and that's what you should have done. If you haven't really seen the field much so far on the season, you want to go out there and make a bang, Drew, but you don't want to go out there and try and go for the 80-yard TD right away. You got to go out there and settle into the game and follow the coach's playbook, and that's not what he did whatsoever. We did not see a great receiving game either from the typical crew of Rhymes and Sinopoli and Hawley. So there was not much support there for Ottawa. And this is a team that's falling down big time. I mean, they're coming off two tough losses, Drew. I mean, 31-1 against Winnipeg, and just the following week, Montreal taking them down 36-19. So for a team that I used to feel had a strong defense, and that would be their backbone, they're proving to us that they're able to get walked all over. And we've got a team in Calgary right now that's coming off a decent victory, but they played the Toronto Argonauts. And we've talked about it each week, and you and I have faded this Argonauts team together. I know you've liked fading them, and this is a team that's still winless. The Argonauts were struggling big time, and Calgary came in there, and they got the job done. But I'll tell you one thing, Drew. I watched this whole game, and this score should have been a lot worse. And, you can take it from either side of the coin. You can either take it as, Calgary did some great things and showed some sign of life, and, they still won by 10, which was actually the opening number, -10, but it closed at -13.5 for the Stamps there. But you can also look at it in other ways that they weren't able to convert in the red zone too many times. And that's what worries me about this team. Because if you can't convert in the red zone against the Argonauts, how are you going to be able to do it against more elite teams? Even against Ottawa here in this one. And I feel that the more that Arbuckle has time with this team to feel like the starter, the more that these receivers can gain that chemistry with him, the better it's going to really get. And it's been really good, the fact that they haven't really been teasing the fact that Bo Levi Mitchell will be back anytime soon. They've been pretty honest with it. Bo Levi Mitchell is in LA right now. He's getting some special treatment. He's actually getting some same treatment that Tom Brady was getting, that Kobe Bryant would get, and the kind of the same doctors that they were getting. So it seems like he's in pretty good care, Drew, which sounds pretty good to me. But the ball is going to be in Arbuckle's hand once again this week, and I do expect great things from him. And I think that the recent kind of, I don't want to say really fall, because Stampeders did always come out with that 10-point victory, but the Stamps would usually, be stomping teams like the Argos. So I think that this, 5, 4.5, even 6.5 number is very deflated. And, I was on Calgary last week, didn't really get the result that I looked for, and they didn't really put the best effort up against the Argonauts. But I think the spot here, I think they'll come out with a strong performance, and it's more of a, fading the cold spot. I mean, the Red Blacks proving to me that they can't really do much, and not only can they not do much offensively, but their defense is getting walked all over. So when I see that, I want to really hop on that team right away. And this is one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast with you early in the week rather than on Thursday, to get on these spots early. And, for all the listeners that check this out every single week, can get on these plays early on in the week. So we're going to go ahead and lay the number here with the Stamps. And I am going to go over the 50 just because I think that's a pretty low total. And we got to expect a little bit more out of the Red Blacks here with Jonathan Jennings getting his second consecutive start. They're going to have some guys back a little bit more healthy this week on the receiving end of things. So hopefully they can get back on the offensive side of things. But when it comes down to it, I think Stampeders will come out on top.
All right, good breakdown, McGinnis, to start it off here, Calgary and Ottawa. We got a doubleheader on Thursday. Toronto Argonauts, the team you brought up as well, versus the Edmonton Eskimos. Looks like the Eskimos laying 11 or 12 at home. 53 the total, McGinnis.
It's funny, Drew, because I'll tell you, and I've never really been a fan of laying a big number with this Eskimos team, but there's something about this spot here, and this is one of those ones I will admit that's tricky for me on this week so far, and I'll have to spend a little more time diving into it because Toronto is going to be one of those teams. Like I said, they're winless on the season. So looking at their record, they're 0-5 straight up, and they have barely been able to cover the spread. They're 2-3 ATS, and I feel that as the season progresses, they're going to start getting closer to covering that number. McLeod Bethel Thompson has looked pretty strong, and we've started to see some progression from the receiving core. Darrell Walker is finally getting the targets that he deserves, and he's getting his stats up. And, that's kind of what I like to see. And James Wilder Jr. is looking more comfortable at the running back position and kind of looking like his old self. So, I feel that this number is going to keep going up. We're seeing plus 12 now at 5 dimes, and certain places are kind of moving that number up a little bit. And the fact is, though, that this Edmonton team, they're coming off pretty much their worst performance of the year so far. And, They lost 20-10 against Edmonton. Trevor Harris came into that matchup, Drew, without an interception so far. I believe he had 8 passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And in this contest against Montreal, he had 0 TDs and 2 interceptions, only passed 67%, which isn't too bad, but not what he was used to passing. So it's kind of a bounce back spot here for Edmonton. But at the same time, I really do feel that Toronto could come out here and cover this number. So I actually do have a lean towards Toronto. I feel like if you like them, though, you'd wait until like kind of game day, right up until kickoff, because that number will probably keep going up in your favor if you do like Toronto. So it's one of those spots for me, Drew, where I feel like Edmonton will come out and win the game, but I think that they're the kind of guys that are going to blow anybody out by any means. So I hope to see the Argonauts kind of stick around in that one. And their defense is definitely getting a little bit better. We saw what they did against Calgary. Like I said, they held Calgary to a lot of 2-and-outs and in the ends red zone, and were able to force a lot of field goals. And that's what this team has to do. Limit the touchdowns, force some field goals, and settle for that if you have to in your own red zone. And that's what I liked out of them. But I'll tell you, one thing I do like in this one is going to be the over. I feel really strongly this is a really good total on the week. I feel that Edmonton, we saw for them pretty much every single week until leading up to Montreal, and hats off to Montreal's defense, but this is a team that can move the ball down the field. This is an Edmonton team that has a lot of guys back there, including CJ Gable, the running back, but Ricky Collins, Kenny Stafford, Tavares Daniels, Greg Ellingson, that can really get involved from the receiving side of things. And I love teams that have lots of options, especially when I'm backing an over. And the Argonauts, like I said, they're kind of getting their stuff together a little bit. So we're seeing a 53 as the total, and I'll go over the total with that one as well. So lean to the Argos, Drew, but like I said, not my favorite game of the week.
All right, McGinnis. We're talking with Andrew McGinnis here at McGinnis Picks on Twitter. He's 13-7 on the year, 65% CFL year to date, and we got the coupon code CFL50. That's CFL50 at checkout. We just discounted the rest of the CFL full season to $199 on SportsMemo.com, and with CFL50 coupon code at checkout, it takes an extra $50 off this week, so you can get the rest of his CFL season throughout the Grey Cup for just $149 using the coupon code CFL50 at checkout. On to Friday, July 26th, we got the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Looks like a pick'em here, McGinnis. Seeing a couple shops at -1 towards the Hamilton side, 55 the total.
Yeah, it's where the line should be. It's where the spot should be. These are probably the 2 top teams in the league right now, at least in their respective divisions, at least. And when I look at this spot, the first thing I'm going to say is what I always say in these situations, and it's the typical East versus West spot. And as everybody knows, I'm a lot higher on this Western division. So first of all, like flat out, to me, I give the edge to the Western Conference team, but seeing the way that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are not only getting consistent wins, but they're 5-0 straight up, but they're also 5-0 against the spread. I mean, if you're backing Winnipeg each week, you're doing great. You're having a great season so far. But this Hamilton team, they're one of those teams for me right now. So far that I just don't know if they can battle against that top team in the West just yet. They were able to do it against Calgary, but Calgary was very banged up. They were injured. They were missing their star quarterback. And I look at this spot here, and I think that Winnipeg has just been blowing teams out of the water. I mean, they're consistently, no matter who gets in their way, they had 31 points on Ottawa, 48 points on Toronto, 29 points on Ottawa the week prior to that. This is a team that's consistently putting up big numbers. And not only that, Drew, their defense is coming to play as well. Looking at this Winnipeg team right now with the stats right in front of me, they're averaging just 16 points against on a week-to-week basis. And that's impressive to me. Hamilton more closer to 20, 21, 22. So that just, straight up right there kind of means a lot to me, because whether it's going to be an offensive game or a defensive game, lower scoring, I give the edge to Winnipeg. And you look at the quarterback battle with Jeremiah Masoli versus Matt Nichols. two excellent quarterbacks. But who do I give the edge to? I give it to Matt Nichols. I still think he has far more experience. I still think that he's a little bit more versatile in the pocket. I think he can kind of take leads a little bit better. I think he's better at finding his guys. I feel like Masoli is a great quarterback and has a great arm, but I feel like he's less at moving on the spot and kind of going with improv and kind of just making decisions on the fly. Whereas Nichols can find any open guy at any time, and that's why this Winnipeg team really has been so lethal. And the size of some of these receivers for Winnipeg, when you look at them.
And guys, sorry about the technical difficulties here on the podcast. We got McGinnis going in and out. And McGinnis, if you're still there, man, you were going out a little bit. But either way, we got Winnipeg, Hamilton, looks like 55, and pick 'em the total. Also, when you can just segue into Saskatchewan versus BC Lions. Looks like 52 the total in Saskatchewan, -3.5 or -4 on the road.
Yeah, sorry about that, Drew. Are we doing all right? Can you hear me?
No, just keep rolling, man, and we'll finish it off here with the Saturday game.
Okay, well, I definitely do lean Winnipeg in that pick'em battle there between the two conference rivals there, I guess. And looking at this British Columbia Saskatchewan side, this is a very interesting game because we've seen this now a few times, Drew, in the CFL, and obviously there's only 9 teams, so we are going to see this. These two teams actually just played in Week 6, and now they're kind of doing a home-and-home scenario. And in that Week 6 battle, the Saskatchewan Roughriders put up 38 points. They defeated the BC Lions 38-25. Saskatchewan, of course, was coming off their bye, and they came off their bye, flying. They looked outstanding, put up some great numbers. I love to see what Cody Fajardo came out and did. He looked so comfortable back there at the QB position. He found so many of his weapons. But BC, hats off to them. Their team that's been struggling. They're a fade team right now, and they ended up coming out and putting up a good spot, good game. But Saskatchewan was just a little bit too much for them to handle. So it's interesting for me to see just with the different change of venue, the different change of location, and mind you, going from Saskatchewan to BC, it's a decent hike, but it's not too far, Drew, geographically. For us to get just this -3 number, I'm going to continue to fade the BC Lions. It just seemed to me when I was watching that game, BC just couldn't handle what Saskatchewan was throwing at them, each and every drive. BC would answer with a touchdown right away. Saskatchewan had something right back for them. And that's kind of going to be the story of this game as well here coming into this one. But one thing I do find interesting, like I said, as we change the venues, that game I don't think should have been that high scoring. I'm going to go under the total of 52 in this one, as that one was a very, very high scoring one last week. It kind of got out of hand. I feel like this one will be a little bit lower scoring. So we're leaning with Saskatchewan again. We're going to keep fading BC. They're a big fade team right now. And we're going to fade them and ride Saskatchewan. Also look under the total in this one. And that wraps it up for Week 7, Drew.
All right, good stuff, McGinnis. At McGinnis Picks on Twitter. Finishing up there with Saskatchewan, BC, looking to fade BC. Guys, coupon code CFL50, CFL50 at checkout for the rest of his CFL full season all the way through the Grey Cup. No extra charges later for just $149. We just discounted it to $199 on the site, so check that out. And with the coupon code CFL50 at checkout, it will take an extra $50 off. 13 and 7, 65% on the years. Get a 5% up at sportsmemo.com. Check it out. Also, full season. That's probably the smartest choice to go. So for Andrew McGinnis, I am Drew Martin. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow talking with Nick Borman, golf and soccer podcast tomorrow. So best of luck with your bets. We'll talk tomorrow.